On AOPA Live this week, a GA mission to do good goes tragically bad. Training for when all is chaos, dancing with the air cam above Memphis, and a new airplane from a storied manufacturer. AOPA Live this week begins right now. Hello and welcome to AOPA Live this week for June 7th. I'm Tom Haynes. Aviation accidents are never easy to report, and it's even harder when the accident hits close to home. AOPA pilot, senior editor Dave Hirschman and photographer Chris Rose were on assignment in northern Mexico when they became witnesses to tragedy that will reverberate through the volunteer flying community.
Photographer Chris Rose and I came to Mexico to do a story about using general aviation to do good work in this dangerous part of the country.
We'll be 45 minutes southeast to El Forte, which is a small town in northern Sinaloa, where our main clinic is, and the other clinics are in the vicinity.
Liga International has operated a medical clinic here in the epicenter of Mexico's drug violence. Liga medical volunteers have been coming here since 1934. GA aircraft are the best way to get volunteers and supplies to this remote area about 600 miles south of the Arizona border. Like the medical workers, pilots are volunteers. Here in the clinics, audiologists fit people with hearing aids.
¿Es mejor? ¿Puedes oír bien? ¿Sí?
Ophthalmologists remove blinding cataracts. Surgeons repair crippling birth defects. Since medical care is otherwise non-existent for the poor in this remote area, sometimes the miracle is as simple as over-the-counter medication.
The pilots going down are taking supplies, typical pharmacy supplies, a lot of over-the-counter anti-inflammatories and painkillers and so forth.
On Saturday, 4 aircraft were scheduled to fly medical personnel and supplies from the main clinic in El Fuerte to a remote clinic in El Carrizo. It's a tough road to drive, but it's an easy 20-minute flight. One aircraft didn't arrive on time. Chris and I joined Liga pilot Eric Knudsen in a bush taxi.
We're going to head to the airport to see if he was still there, and then locals came and told us that there was a plane in the river. So we're now racing in a cab to go to the site, and we're hoping that everybody's okay.
They weren't. A Cessna 182, owned and flown by Liga volunteer and pilot John Slater, was in pieces, upside down, in the shallow El Fuerte River. It seemed clear to me that one wing had clipped a power line about 100 feet above the river. We don't yet know why he was flying so low. Slater died shortly after the crash. 3 teenage volunteers survived with injuries. 2 local fishermen rescued them and took them to a hospital. 2 are in good condition, 1 remains critical. Later in the day, a wrecking truck winched what remained of the 182 out of the water. Crews hauled the pieces to the airport. The investigators will learn what they can from the wreckage. Meanwhile, the legal volunteers gathered at a local restaurant to try to understand what happened.
Local authorities and the police doing an investigation, and everything is in good hands, and we have assurances from the governor's representative. They are very, very pleased with the work that we do here. They're very, very sorry about the accident that has occurred, and they will do everything possible to ensure that we have an avenue to get what we need done.
And to move forward.
We're all working to do what we came here to do.
But the accident was devastating for Liga.
I mean, nothing like this has ever happened before with Liga. Your safety record has been perfect until now.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, it has in the time I've been here, and we've been quite proud of it. And we have assessed our safety procedures along the way. And it wasn't long ago we had a leadership meeting where we discussed this, the safety and these very catastrophic possibilities. So when this happened today, fortunately, we were somewhat prepared, but right. It's never easy.
So now the question, how does Liga go on?
Everybody's grieving right now. Everybody knew John, he'd been with us a long time. but I think everyone also recognizes the good work, the important work that's done here. So we have 3 months. We don't come here in the summertime, so our next mission will be in October. So we have some time to consolidate our feelings and get our emotions squared away and consider how we each individually go on.
What a tragic turn of events. Joining me here on the AOPA Live stage is Dave Hirschman. Dave, what an incredible week you've had. The elation of the great work that general aviation can do in such remote parts of the world, and all of that just torn away in a fraction of a second with this accident. Describe the accident scene for me when you happened upon it.
Well, you know, it was we came upon the scene of the Cessna that was overturned in the river. It came to rest inverted. Obviously, massive damage to the airplane before the impact. The wing was separated. The engine was pulled off the mounts. The doors were flung open, and it was obvious that it had hit this river with incredible force and incredible violence. And our first thought really was that it was miraculous that anyone survived this impact. You know, there were 3 that survived, and it was just astonishing and miraculous that they got out of this airplane alive.
Yeah. And how are the 3?
Well, 2 are in incredibly good shape. They were kept overnight for a couple nights in a hospital in Mexico for observation. They've got some broken collarbones, a couple other relatively minor fractures, lots of scrapes and bruises and cuts, but they're going to be fine. They're going to make full recoveries. The 3rd passenger's condition is more serious, where she had a head injury of undefined severity, and she was put in a medically induced coma for several days. But she too is expected to make a full recovery.
Right. So upon returning to the States, you visited with the pilot's family. And when you came back, we were talking earlier, you kind of had an interesting perspective on the effect of these kind of accidents.
Right. Chris Rose and I, along with the League of Volunteers, we met with the family just because we had spent time at the crash site, and if there were any specific questions that they had about anything really having to do with that day, we could hopefully provide some answers and some comfort to them. And you know, it was really impactful for all of us, really, and it brought home the fact that the decisions that we make in these airplanes, they don't just affect us, and they don't just affect the people who are in the airplane with us. There are other strong ramifications for family members, for friends, and for the organizations, and I'm sure that this pilot certainly didn't mean to, but due to the nature of the crash, the organization whose mission he's so supported is in a bit of jeopardy, and their future is uncertain because of this accident.
Right. This isn't your first time having been in the neighborhood of a wire strike. You were involved in one earlier in your career.
That's right. I flew ag planes for a while, and you know, it's all low level, and you know, I was really cocky. I mean, beyond confident, really cocky. I just thought, you know, I've got excellent vision. No wire is going to sneak up on me. I know this territory in which I'm working, and you know, I had a wire strike the second week I was on the job, and I did not see that wire until it was stretched across the windshield. And fortunately for me, you know, some genius long ago figured out that ag planes really ought to carry wire cutters, and you know, the wire cutter worked in this situation, and there was no damage to the airplane. Kept on flying, and I still keep the spinner off that airplane because it's as a reminder to not be such a dunce in the future. It looks kind of like a dunce cap, and that's how I regard it. It's got a big crease down the side, and it's my little reminder to be careful.
Okay, Dave, that's a great reminder for all of us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
We asked the AOPA Air Safety Institute to look into wire strike accidents here in the United States. In the last 5 years, fixed-wing aircraft have hit wires about 85 times, and about a third of those were fatal accidents, and a little more than half of the accidents were personal flights. There were some 65 helicopter accidents, and again, when a helicopter hits a wire, the accident is fatal about a third of the time. And the Air Safety Institute cooperated with Southern California Edison to produce this video, Surviving the Wires Environment. It discusses the dangers of low-level flying and some basic safety tips for pilots who need to fly close to wires. You can find it by clicking on the Air Safety Institute tab at the top of AOPA.org. Well, there's another dangerous environment out there, wildfires. As you can see from this screenshot from AOPA's Internet Flight Planner, there are firefighting TFRs all over the western United States, and one of the biggest in the massive fire in New Mexico. Remember that the regulations establishing these TFRs are to keep firefighting aircraft safe. The battle between a local minority of citizens and pilots in Santa Monica, California is heating up. You may remember a few activists are pushing for closure of that airport, citing environmental impacts. Now it has reportedly come to vandalism. According to local media reports, police say they arrested 31-year-old Jeremiah Keene Mayman. Reports cited police in saying that Keene Mayman was caught by officials dumping nails onto the property of a flight school on the field. Reports said those with business at the airport have found nails on paved surfaces several times since April. Keene Mayman has been charged with one count of attempted felony vandalism. A light sport aircraft called the Sling has become the 125th light sport aircraft on the United States market. A basic model, ready to fly, costs $125,000. It's built in Johannesburg, South Africa, and uses avionics from another South African company, MGL Avionics. Tricked out with all the options, including a glass cockpit and an airframe parachute, the cost climbs to $145,000. Senior editor Al Marsh will report on the Sling in a future issue of AOPA Pilot magazine. Light jet builder Eclipse Aerospace hit a milestone this week. Company CEO Mason Holland explained in a Skype interview from earlier today. So Mason, big news for Eclipse Aerospace this week. At the meeting you had for some of your dealers, you unveiled the first parts of the new Eclipse 550. Tell me about that.
So they got to see the forward keel assembly being mounted into the fuselage of serial number 1001, which is the first serial number of the Eclipse 550 model. So it was a pretty exciting event on Friday.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. A big step as you begin to move forward. So tell us the difference between a 500 and a 550. What are some of the major points?
All right, so they're both based on the same type certificate. So the aircraft is already certified from an airframe standpoint, which gives us a big leg up. The Eclipse 550 is the next evolution in the Eclipse 500. What we're doing is we're bringing even more technology to the aircraft, mostly in the avionics platform, where you're going to see that, and also a couple of little just more finite engineering improvements around the airframe itself. But now with a new avionics platform also still being provided by IS&S, our partners in that effort, our Avio integrated flight management system will also add new microprocessors, new screens that are going to give a little bit better resolution to the pilot in a view capacity. But more importantly, the microprocessors behind our avionics will support additional functionality of the 550, such as synthetic vision, enhanced vision. We're also going to finish, and we're in flight tests right now on auto throttles, and these types of advanced technologies that are normally not found in a jet of our size and category in the light jet market.
The first production aircraft will roll off the line next year, and you can watch more of my interview with Holland on AOPAlive.org. Well, down in Georgia, there's a little airplane factory. They don't build many, about 4 or 5 a year during these past few lean years, but they've been building them for a long time. And they have a devoted following among taildragger pilots who need to haul big loads out of short fields. And now they have a new heavy hauler. Senior editor Al Marsh and photographer Chris Rose traveled to Moultrie, Georgia to bring back little-known stories from Maule aircraft.
Maule Air is celebrating 50 years in continuous production with a new model, the M9-235, that can lift 300 pounds more than any other model. But new's a relative term.
Call it the potato head factory because they've taken the one design, everything's out of the same jig, and made about 7 different models.
The first Maul ever made is still in the factory, no thanks to the cats of Moultrie, Georgia.
One day I came out here and our dog Dylan, it belongs to a coworker. It's a Irish setter. He was over here barking at the airplane one day, and I'm like, what's going on here? So I came over and investigated, and there was a cat that was living in the aircraft and had set up residence in there. So I opened the door, and next thing I know, Dylan jumps in the plane, and they start going at it inside the airplane. And I mean, cat and dog fight extraordinaire.
BD Maul used to fly out the hangar door until one day.
He used to take off in our second hangar, as our first one as well, which is actually shorter. The second hangar, the one he's famous for flying out of, is about 200 feet long, and the last time he did it, he got off the ground quicker than he wanted to and had to actually dive down a little bit to get out the door. And I think my grandmother told him it's time to quit after that.
Hal Marsh, AOPA Live.
And coming up on AOPA Live this week, news on learning to fly and flying home to Elvis, the air cam over Memphis.
It's been called the most sophisticated single-engine airplane ever, but to the people whose loved ones are alive today, it's called a lifesaver. The Cirrus Airframe Parachute System, only from Cirrus Aircraft.
Welcome back. You're watching AOPA Live this week. There's a big weekend in store down in Lakeland, Florida. AOPA, along with Sun and Fun and the Recreational Aviation Foundation, will be hosting and participating in several events at the Sun and Fun grounds throughout the weekend of June 9th and 10th. On Saturday night, gather around the RAF Fire Hub for a chat with AOPA President Craig Fuller and Sun and Fun President John Lights Leanhoutz. Sunday morning, there'll be an AOPA pancake breakfast, then a pilot town hall meeting. You can learn more about the events, including how to RSVP for the breakfast, right now on AOPA.org. And if you're flying to Lakeland this weekend, or anywhere else for that matter, give our FlyQ flight planning app a try. It's a free download from the Apple App Store for AOPA members, and it's proved to be pretty darn popular.
We've had more than 33,000 downloads in the month that FlyQ has been on the market. AOPA FlyQ is a really powerful app, particularly for the price. It provides airport directory information, aviation weather, and flight planning with auto-routing capabilities. It combines all of the airport directory information that you're used to with AOPA airports. It uses your device's GPS to locate the airports closest to you, and then proceeds to give you all of the airports by distance away from you. You can click onto that airport and you can see the current METARs and TAFs for that airport. You can see services at that airport. Aviation weather, you have a gallery option where you can see all the weather information that you need to plan your flight and to fly your flight. And you have auto-routing capabilities with your flight planning. You put in your departure and your destination, and it will use predicted winds aloft to calculate the best recommendation for you to fly that route.
And Android users, yeah, we heard you. We have an Android version in development, should be available by mid-July. AOPA played host to Learn to Fly Day this weekend. The event was part of the EAA's International Learn to Fly Day, but we here at Frederick had to postpone ours due to the G8 summit a few weekends ago. But better late than never, we took hundreds of people flying. There was a little bit of everything on the ramp at FTK, from Cessnas to Robinson helicopters and even a Pitts, but most of all, there were people. 600 or so came through the event on Saturday, and more than a third of them got to take a ride on a general aviation airplane.
Hi, I'm Chris.
11 aircraft flown by 12 volunteer pilots worked to get a lot of people interested in flying. The demand for flights was so great,
Want to go fly with us?
AOPA President and CEO Craig Fuller fired up our Cessna Caravan to offer rides. A group of teenagers enjoyed the trip, but especially 16-year-old Albert Coyne, an aviation explorer who served as co-pilot for Craig.
Flown a 172, but never anything this big.
How does this compare?
Flying was pretty much the same. More passengers, though.
AOPA event planners say it was a success, and we look forward to next year and plan to make it even bigger. A chain of 8 professional flight schools, American Flyers, is partnering with Nova Southeastern University in Florida to offer a bachelor's degree for professional pilots. We talked earlier this week with American Flyers CEO Don Harrington about the need for the program.
Well, the degree that they describe now is the human factors in aviation. So it's a full degree, bachelor degree. And of course it has all of the credentials from the FAA, all of the licenses required to become a professional pilot. As many as half of the airline pilots in the world will retire within the next 10 years. So that would be an immense burden on the educational schools in the United States that are training pilots and worldwide. And in fact, the shortage is becoming so acute that a lot of airline pilots that have been flying for major carriers here in the United States have been recruited to fly internationally, especially in China. The Congress mandated to the FAA that the pilots in the airline cockpits of the future must have 1,500 hours of total time before they, in an ATP, before they can be a pilot in the cockpit. The exemptions there are you can have 1,000 hours if you have a full 4-year degree.
Academic courses can be completed online, while flight training will be done at one of American Flyers' schools. The first term begins August 20th, and you can see more of the interview with Don Harrington on AOPAlive.org. Last week, we took you on the first leg of the River Run. AOPA pilot senior editor Dave Hirschman and AOPA Live's Paul Harrop showed you the first leg of their journey. They ferried an amphibious air cam from Florida all the way to Minneapolis. We rejoin the journey as the guys are over the Mississippi River Delta. Paul Harrop reports.
Okay, we got the Mississippi River in sight.
After 2 long days of flying, we were finally on the track we had hoped to be, the mighty Mississippi. We flew west over the Delta lands and made a right turn.
This is great. This is such a milestone. I mean, it's a can't miss mile marker in America. It's the American Nile. This is kind of what I think of the Mississippi River.
The giant waterway was our guide, and we headed north to Memphis, some of Dave's old stomping grounds.
You know, I used to live in Memphis. I really learned to fly there. Have great friends there, and have you know, thoroughly enjoyed flying there for many years. But the air cam allowed me to go to this familiar place and have a totally new experience.
We met up with another air cam.
And I'm climbing left turn, you're 1230 to 1.
Roger, hello.
Yeah, we got to fly with James Freeman, an old friend and family friend and a fantastic flyer. And he's been an air cam owner for years. And flying together with the 2 air cams over the Mississippi River was just tremendous. I mean, it was it's one of those things that when it's happening, you know it's happening, but it just doesn't seem real. It's hard to imagine anything better.
Low and slow over the river, you can really get a feel for the muddy water's power.
You get a real feel for the scale and the power of it when you're just a few feet off the water in the middle of the river. It's a place that you'd never go in any other airplane that I fly, and you know, you just have you see it in a completely new way. You watch these barges go by and the incredible wakes that they kick up, and you see the logs that are drifting downriver, and you know, the incredible powerful currents and the eddies and boils that define the Mississippi.
But you could see, feel, smell, and even taste the detail as we landed on the water time and time again. An experience that can only be had in an airplane like the Air Cam.
It allows all that. It not only allows it, it's made for that. It's made to look beyond. It's meant to be a sort of pristine vantage point where you can just see so much variety.
Next week on the River Run, we'll stop off in the gateway to the west and have a look at the arch from eye level. Plus, Mother Nature throws us a curveball. Find out what rain is like in an open cockpit as we continue the River Run. Paul Harrop, AOPA Live.
In light of the accident we reported at the top of the show, You may be wondering about the safety of this low and slow trip up the river. It's a good question. Dave meticulously planned the trip, carefully reviewing the sectional charts. The AirCam was equipped with a GPS with a current obstacles database. The AirCam is slow with superb visibility. And finally, before Dave and Paul did any low-level flying or water landings, they overflew the area at a safe altitude to check for wires and other obstacles. And while all that flying was done in strict observance of the FARs. When we come back, when turning upside down can turn you right side up.
From your first skyward glance, the dream of flight compelled you. And from your first glimpse of a Cirrus, you realized that dream had a name. Cirrus Aircraft. Go where you've never been before.
Welcome back to AOPA Live this week. I'm Tom Haynes. Well, you're chugging along in the Clag. The view out the window looks like the bottom of a dirty wash bucket, and you just know there are thunderstorms in the area. So, how much help can you expect from a controller in a nice, comfy radar room?
As far as our radars are concerned, we do not show thunderstorm activity or embedded thunderstorms. All we show is precipitation, various levels from light, moderate, heavy, extreme. Center also shows different levels of precipitation. They show 3 levels, moderate, extreme, and heavy. And they also have altitude on theirs, whereas we do not on the TRACON radars.
That interview is from an upcoming Ask ATC video from the Air Safety Institute. The full video will be available next week as part of ASI's Storm Week. Also planned are live webinars and other educational materials to help you deal with the weather. Visit AOPA.org for more information. Now here's AOPA flight training editor Ian Twombly with a look at an IFR training device called the Flight Hoodie.
We're here today to talk about the Flight Hoodie. Now this is not to be confused with the sweatshirt variety. The Flight Hoodie is actually a view limiting device for those of you in instrument training or looking to get current. As you can see, it's not unlike sort of the old gray version that you would strap onto the back of your head. But this one, the designers said it was made for folks who wear glasses and big glasses, but I find that it actually works great no matter what else is on your face. Attaches to a hat, so you do have to be wearing a hat. And it's just a little piece of neoprene here that goes over the bill, and then just some plastic that folds over. And really you just pop it on, and it does a really nice job of covering the panel like you'd hope and expect from any view limiting device. It's about $20. You can get it from flighthoodie.com, which if you ever forget, it's right here on the bill. And that's really all there is to it. Ian Twombly, AOPA Live.
There are times when the airplane is telling the pilot what to do, yet the pilot does the absolute wrong thing. Why? Why did an airline pilot continue to pull back on the yoke with the stall horn blaring and ride the aircraft all the way to the ground in a deep stall? In the cover story for the June issue of AOPA Pilot magazine, editor-at-large Tom Horn reports that stress can overcome the logical functions of the brain and make you do the wrong thing. As part of that story, he took upset training at Sean D. Tucker's Tutima Academy in California.
What happens when a typical pilot suddenly gets in a stressful situation, like entering a stall in the traffic pattern, or being rolled upside down by wake turbulence? Invariably, he or she pulls on the control yoke. It's an ingrained response caused when the primitive impulses of the brain overpowers the rational mind. It's an adrenaline-fueled fight or flight reaction. And it's a reaction that's completely wrong and will kill you. Aerobatic showman Sean D. Tucker's Tutima Academy of Aviation Safety at the Mesa del Rey, California airport is all about countering that deadly reaction. It offers a turbine pilot confidence course that teaches pilots new to turbine flying how to respond to the 4 deadly S's: stalls, spins, split S's, and spiral dives. I took the course earlier this year. My instructor at the Academy was Ben Freelove, an aerobatics champion and excellent teacher. The airplane was an Extra 300L, a 300 horsepower 2-seater stressed to +10, -10 Gs. The 4-day course is an aggressive program full of multiple recoveries from fast deceleration stalls, normal and flat spins, and high-speed pullouts. In addition, control system malfunctions are simulated, as are pitch trim runaways. Suddenly rolling to the inverted, then push and roll upright, Freelove teaches. Anything but haul back on the yoke. Can you get used to this sort of mayhem? In a word, yes. Even better, the training makes your recoveries nearly automatic. Bottom line, the course delivers on its promise of confidence. Tom Horn, AOPA Live.
You can read Tom's article on AOPA.org. Just click on the Publications tag at the top of the page. Or even better, you can read AOPA Pilot on your iPad with the AOPA Mags app from the Apple Store. Next Thursday on AOPA Live this week, we fly the 1903 Wright Glider. Yes, it's as miserable a flying machine as you've heard. That and all the news from the world of general aviation. I'm Tom Haines. Thanks for watching. See you next Thursday.